Before the maps were redrawn, before the trembling of kingdoms and the falling of walls, there was only this: a man, a horse, and the endless horizon of the Mongolian steppe. What followed would become the largest contiguous empire in the history of the world, a story written not in ink, but in dust and wind and human will. It began, as so many world-altering stories do, with a child, small, forgotten, marked by the steppe itself. His name was Temujin, and this is his story. In the late 12th century, the Mongolian steppe was not one land but many, a fractured world of warring tribes where survival was a daily negotiation with violence, cold, and hunger. Life was the ger, the felt tent that was home, fortress, and universe. Everything the Mongols needed, they carried with them. Into this world, around 1162, a boy was born to the chief of the Borjigin clan, they say clutching a blood clot in his fist, a sign, the shamans whispered, of a warrior to come. His father, Yesige, was a chief of modest power, respected within his clan, but the steppe was vast and rivals were everywhere. The Anen River was young Temujin's school. Its cold waters taught him patience, its silence taught him how to wait. When Temujin was approximately 9 years old, his father died, poisoned by rival Tatars, and the clan that Yesige had led simply left, taking everything, abandoning the widow and her children to the steppe. It was, by any measure, a death sentence, a woman alone with children on the Mongolian steppe in winter. The world had already written them off. But Holun, Temujin's mother, refused to accept the story Orwell had written for her. She fed her children from the earth itself. She made survival her art. And Temujin watched her, learned from her. The lesson was not lost. The world will abandon you. Only your own will can save you. Under the same stars that looked down on every kingdom of the ancient world, a boy on the steppe was already becoming something else. His childhood trials were not yet over. Temujin was captured by the rival Taiyichu clan and held in a wooden kangu, a restraint device designed to humiliate as much as imprison. He escaped, and this too was a lesson the universe sent him, that no cage is permanent if the mind inside refuses to accept it. He hid in the cold waters of the Anen, barely breathing, completely still. Survivorship, he was learning, was also an art. In his early teens, Temujin had been betrothed to a girl named Börte, the daughter of the Angarat chief. Even in childhood, he had recognized in her something steady, something true. He also made his first Anda, blood brother, a charismatic young chief named Jamuka. For a time, they were inseparable, two young wolves running the same steppe. Then Börte was taken. A rival tribe, the Merkits, seized her as an act of vengeance for an old wrong committed by Temujin's father. She was gone. What that loss did to Temujin is not fully recorded, but what came after was unmistakable. A young man who had been surviving began for the first time to build. He called in every debt, every alliance, every loyalty. He assembled a force, small and first, but organized by a principle that would define him: loyalty over blood, merit over birthright. Börte was rescued. The reunion was private, quiet, but something in Temujin had crystallized in her absence, a clarity about what he intended the world to become. The break from Jamuka came slowly, then suddenly. Two worldviews too different to coexist. Jamuka favored the old aristocracy. Temujin had something new in mind. Through the late 1080s and 1090s, Temujin's camp grew from a handful of families to thousands of warriors, drawn by his reputation for fairness, for sharing plunder, for remembering loyalty. He did not win through brute force alone. He planned, he studied his enemies. He was, above all, a strategist, a man who never attacked where expected. He promoted commanders based on ability, not on the accident of tribal birth. In a world rigidly ordered by lineage, this was revolutionary. And Börte stood beside him, not as decoration, but as counsel. Her political intelligence is documented in the secret history of the Mongols itself. Temujin was deeply shaped by Tengrism, the Mongolian spiritual tradition that saw the sky itself as divine. He believed the eternal blue sky had chosen him, not as a boast, as a responsibility. By 1206, he had done what no one believed possible, unified all the Mongolian tribes. Every clan, every old enemy, gathered on the banks of the Anan River. There, the great Kurultai, the Grand Assembly, proclaimed him Genghis Khan, universal ruler. The title translates roughly as the oceanic ruler, the ruler of all. The great Sulde, the spirit banner of 9 white horsetails, was raised. It would not come down for generations. One of his first acts as Khan was to commission a legal code, the Yasa, a set of laws applying equally across tribes, across status, across old divisions. He also declared the Silk Road open and safe under Mongol protection. Trade, he understood, was as powerful a tool as any army. But beneath the Khan, beneath the title and the banners and the vast machinery of empire, there was still a man who had been a hungry boy on a cold steppe. He never entirely forgot it. The Mongol Empire, officially born, the world was about to learn what that meant. The first major campaigns beyond the steppe began with the Xisha Kingdom of northwestern China, a test of Mongol military innovation against fortified civilization. The Mongol cavalry was unlike anything the settled world had faced, fast, disciplined, tactically sophisticated, and led by commanders who had studied their opponents for years before engaging. But Genghis Khan was not only a conqueror, he sent diplomats before armies, he offered terms. Many who accepted found themselves integrated into the empire on favorable terms. Those who refused faced the consequence of that refusal. Genghis Khan believed deeply in the demonstration effect, that visible consequence discouraged future resistance and ultimately saved lives. City after city along the great trade routes opened their gates as the Mongol reputation preceded the Mongol army. Resistance, many calculated, was a losing proposition. Genghis Khan personally led campaigns across distances that stagger the modern mind. He did not rule from a palace, he led from horseback. To administer this growing empire, he created the Yam, a relay postal system stretching thousands of miles. A message could travel from China to Persia in weeks. His generals, Jebe, Subutai, Jelme, Mukhali, were among the most gifted military commanders in human history. They operated independently across vast distances with complete mutual trust. The Mongolian soldier was not a mindless instrument of destruction. He was a professional, skilled with horse and bow since childhood, disciplined by a military code, and loyal to a meritocratic system that rewarded excellence. The tipping point with the Khwarezm Empire came when the Sultan Muhammad II made a catastrophic miscalculation, insulting the Mongol diplomatic mission and killing Genghis Khan's trade envoys. Genghis Khan's response to the news was, by historical account, silence, a long, cold silence, then a decision that would reshape Central Asia permanently. He turned the full weight of the Mongol Empire westward. It was 1219. The world would not be the same when it was done. At its height, the Mongol Empire would stretch from the Pacific coast of China to the doorstep of Eastern Europe, 12 million square miles, 1/4 of the Earth's land surface.
Samarkand, one of the great jewels of the Islamic world, fell in 1220. A civilization of extraordinary culture and wealth was absorbed into the largest empire the world had ever seen. The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, was an unintended but genuine consequence of conquest. For nearly a century, the Silk Road was safer to travel than at any time before or since. Perhaps one of the most surprising aspects of Genghis Khan's rule was his policy of religious tolerance. In an era of sectarian ferocity, he exempted clergy of all faiths from taxation and persecution. He commissioned the creation of a written Mongolian script, using the Uyghur alphabet as a foundation. A people who had been purely oral now had a written history. He never stopped being, at heart, a man of the steppe, of the horse, of the open sky. Scholars, engineers, astronomers, physicians, and administrators from every conquered civilization were welcomed into Mongol service. Knowledge was absorbed as deliberately as territory. By the 1220s, Genghis Khan was aging. The decades of campaign had marked him deeply, but the machine he had built did not slow. If anything, it accelerated. The question of succession was one he struggled with. His sons, Jochi, Chagatai, Ogedei, and Tului, were each capable and each different. The empire was not built to divide easily. Winter after winter, the steppe endured as it always had. The Mongol Empire was vast, but the land that made it remained unchanged. History does not permit simplicity. The Mongol campaigns brought trade and tolerance, and they also brought destruction to cities that chose resistance. The ruins and the roads are both part of the same story. By the time Mongol forces reached Eastern Europe in the 1240s, under Ogedei Khan after Genghis Khan's death, European scholars were writing letters of barely contained terror. What was this force, they asked, that had come from the east like a wind? Genghis Khan's final campaign was against the Xisha, who had refused to provide forces for the Western campaign. He was in his early 60s. The campaign was his last. In 1227, during the Xisha campaign, Genghis Khan fell gravely ill. The exact cause remains debated by historians: a fall from a horse, illness, the accumulated cost of a lifetime of campaign. He died on August 18, 1227. The manner of his final days was kept secret by those who attended him. The great Khan had requested it.
His burial was deliberately hidden. The funeral escort, according to tradition, killed anyone they encountered on the road to the burial site. The location of his grave has never been found. Perhaps that too was the point. An empire of 12 million square miles continued without him. The sons and grandsons carried it forward, but something irreplaceable was gone. After Genghis Khan's death, the empire fractured into 4 successor states: the Golden Horde, the Chagatai Khanate, the Ilkhanate, and the Yuan dynasty. Each powerful, none as singular as what came before. The steppe endures. It looks today almost exactly as it did in Temujin's childhood. The land has no memory, and yet it has all memory. The physical evidence of his empire fills museums across 14 countries: bronze seals, lacquered weapons, the paisa trade passes that guaranteed safe conduct across a continent. Genetic research published in 2003 estimated that approximately 16 million men alive today carry a Y chromosome lineage linked to Genghis Khan, an empire of DNA, invisible and fast. The Secret History of the Mongols, the oldest surviving Mongolian literary work, gives us the closest thing we have to his own voice. Written shortly after his death, it preserves a portrait of both the man and the myth. The steppe has outlasted every empire it ever produced. It will outlast us too. That perhaps is the only certainty the horizon offers. History moves like a rider at full gallop. It does not stop to explain itself. We must catch it as it passes. All empires eventually become lines on old maps. The Mongol Empire is no different, and no less extraordinary for it. The grass was here before the empire. It will be here long after the last historian closes the last book. Genghis Khan, born of the steppe, abandoned by the world, and then, briefly, spectacularly, its master. The sun rose over his birth, it rose over his death, it rises still.